Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which is going to be my best of 2024. I've narrowed it down to my top 25 products of the year. So if you want to know all of my favorite products that I tried throughout the entire year, then keep watching. Okay, so I'm going to go in an order that makes sense to me, and I've kind of grouped products together. So kicking us off, we only have one primer to talk about today, and it is the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate primer. I love this primer so much, not just because it has this glorious, gorgeous glass bottle packaging that I love so much, the exact same packaging that I love so much from the foundation, but it is a beautiful primer. And even though my Tom Ford Soft Matte Primer still has #1 top spot in my heart for all time, this is a close second. I was really surprised when I reviewed this that not only did it give me a gorgeous glow to the skin, which really shows through with foundation, particularly if you're wearing a more medium coverage foundation, but it actually doesn't sacrifice smoothing, so you still get a beautifully smooth canvas for makeup. You get all that gorgeous extra help with foundation applying beautifully and staying in place all day, but you also get that gorgeous glow, so it's a bit like something for everybody. The only reason why I slightly prefer the soft matte is just because my absolute priority from a primer is smoothing and longevity of my makeup, and I feel like the soft matte just slightly has the edge on that. I don't typically need glow day to day because I love glowier foundations, but if I'm wearing a more matte foundation, then I always reach for this one. It's just gorgeous, everything that I want from a primer, and a beautiful packaging on top, little cherry on top there. Now, only one primer, but 5 foundation type of products, including this little outlier, which is Lisa Eldridge's Skin Tint. I can't believe this came out this year. It must have been early in the year because I feel like I've had this forever. This is such a beautiful skin tint, so natural, actually does what it says on the tin, being a skin tint, you know, a light coverage that's really natural, really skin-like, wears beautifully, has a beautiful amount of luminosity to the finish in very travel-friendly, holiday travel-friendly packaging. This is such a great skin tint, one of my all-time favorites. Very versatile and became one of my most worn bases, especially for those no makeup days when I'm doing something quick and easy that takes me 5 minutes. This has become like my go-to. And then there were 4 traditional foundations that knocked my socks off this year. First of all, the one I'm wearing today, the Tom Ford Soft Matte Architecture. Again, Tom Ford's glorious packaging that really gives a little cherry or sprinkles on the top of this gorgeous foundation. Now, as you know, I'm not really a matte foundation kind of girl. Diggy. Now, as you know, I'm not really a matte foundation girl typically, but this one is unbelievable. I'm wearing it today. It's flawless, so smoothing, such a beautiful full coverage. Yes, it's a high coverage foundation, but it's so lightweight and so natural as far as the finish on the skin. It just looks absolutely perfect, but still quite skin-like, and you wouldn't necessarily know you were wearing such a high coverage foundation because it looks so fresh and healthy on the skin. It does have a luminous matte finish, so I can forgive it, as I can add, you know, as much glow as I want with the primer and also with some glowy cheek products. But if I am going on a day where I know it's going to be trying for my makeup, I always wear this because the longevity and the wear is unbelievable. It's impenetrable. You can wear it in the snow, in the rain, in the sleet, in the wind, in the glorious sunshine, and we often get every single one of those weathers in the same day. And this foundation will say, it's fine, I've got you. It looks unbelievable at the end of the day. I've worn this on some really trying days where I've either got lashed with rain or it's been really, really hot, and it's just never looked anything other than freshly applied by the end of very long days. It's amazing. Photographs beautifully, would be my wedding foundation, I think, if I was getting married again. So an absolute belter of a new foundation this year. Another more matte foundation that really surprised me this year is the new one from Bobbi Brown. This is the Weightless Skin Foundation, and that's such a good name for it because it is very skin-like, very natural. I'd say this is a natural finish, not a matte finish. Still not as glowy as I typically wear day to day, but a beautiful foundation. So natural, so perfecting, very smooth, looks very healthy and perfected, but in a very natural way. Really beautiful foundation, really beautiful packaging, and one of the first products that really got me back into trying more from Bobbi Brown. Do not underestimate this foundation. It also wears very well. Give it a try if you haven't already. Next up, a foundation that's much more up my street typically. This is the Patrick Tar foundation. This was a divisive little number, wasn't it? I feel like while I really like this foundation, I did wish it had a bit more coverage to it. I wish it was like a solid medium. To me, this is a light to medium amount of coverage, and I've often wished that I just had a little bit more, but the finish is so beautiful that I still really want to wear it because it's got that gorgeous, fresh, luminous glow that you would expect from Patrick Tar. That's like his signature look, is very glowy, and this is exactly in line with his aesthetic of the way he does makeup. So beautiful, youthful, fresh, juicy skin, a lighter end of medium coverage, but beautiful on the skin nonetheless. Not super long wearing, but on those days where I don't need a super long wearing foundation, this is a beautiful choice. One of my all-time favorite foundations came out this year, and it was surprisingly the Dior Stick Foundation. And I say surprisingly, not because this isn't a stunning foundation, but because it's a stick. And if you know me, you'll know that I don't typically like sticks of any shape, size or form. Bronzers, blushes, highlights, foundations, if it comes in a stick, it's usually not for me. I'm just not really a stick girl, but this foundation I can make an exception for. It is so beautiful. It's so smooth. It glides across the skin. It's not hard to work into the skin or to blend out. It's so thin and lightweight feeling somehow, yet gives you a really solid medium coverage straight off the bat. So beautiful, really nice and glowy on the skin. Absolutely love it. And I do appreciate actually how travel friendly this is. This is my favorite stick foundation of all time. It topped the Tom Ford this year, and it's become the first ever stick product that has really made it into like my day-to-day makeup because I love it so much. Only one concealer made it into my top 25 this year, and it is the Guerlain Terracotta concealer. Such a great full coverage, matte, but natural matte, light feeling concealer. Given the amount of coverage this concealer has, it feels like you've got no concealer on. My eyes, I'm wearing this today, and I feel so light under my eyes, despite having a really full coverage concealer on that I've set with powder and having like it fully conceal my under eye area. It still feels very light, which I really appreciate. Now, we had no new powders this year to speak of, so moving on to bronzers, and we were spoiled with bronzers this year. First up, the Armani Luminous Silk Bronzer. I love this bronzer so much. The packaging and the finish are what really does it for me. You get 18, I was going to say 10 and I thought that was generous, 18 grams of product in here. This is shade 100 and it's just got the most beautiful luminous finish ever. So much product, gorgeous packaging, seamless on the skin. It is, as I've said, I wish we had some slightly more neutral shades of this bronzer, but nonetheless, it's a gorgeous bronzer. Another stunning bronzer that came out this year was the YSL. This is the shade number 2, and oh my gosh, it's absolutely beautiful. Definitely a more neutral bronzer compared to the Armani. This shade I'm building up because on me it's very natural, but you will see still next to the Armani, this one is definitely a bit more of a neutral leaning shade. Very natural, matte finish, again, outrageously beautiful, luxurious packaging, and this has become one of my most worn bronzers. I actually am thinking of including this in my project pan because I use this so much, and with it being a lighter, more natural shade for me. I do use a lot of it, which I quite like to build up. So soft and seamless and flattering on the skin. Very, very smooth and very, very refined, really finely milled powder. That one, absolutely beautiful. But I think my number one favorite of all of these belters of bronzers that came out this year was the RMS. Just look at the state of it. And this isn't even my most used shade. This is Beachwalk Betty. I think my most used shade is Tan Lines, but I am enjoying Beachwalk Betty at the moment because my skin tone is lighter. Now it's winter, and this is just a really beautiful, almost cooler leaning bronzer. It's kind of got a rosy undertone to it, which is beautiful, very buildable, gorgeous finish comparable to the Armani, but with cooler tones, hence why this one beat out the Armani as my number one favorite bronzer. I'm using it so much, I just love it, and refillable. So although the packaging isn't as fancy pants as the Armani, it has its pluses too. One standalone highlighter that's made it into this top 25 this year is from Gucci. This is the shade Opal Pink, and oof, just to touch it, it's so silky. I adore this highlighter. It's right up my street. I'm wearing it today and it's just so smooth and luminous and understated. It doesn't look too metallic, but it still gives you a decent amount of glow. You're going to look like you're glowy, but in a very smooth, fresh, natural way. Perfect amount of luminosity that I look for in a highlighter. It's just gorgeous. The shade is perfect. It's got that sort of putty, like gelée, like squishy sort of texture. So I believe it will literally last you 400 years, because those type of palettes, because they're not powdery, you just never can make a dent in them. So I think it will last you forever, and it gives you that wet look cheek, which I just think it's absolutely stunning. I love this highlighter so much. I've already gone back for another shade 1, which I love, much more subtle than this one. This is my favorite, but I think I may even need more shades of it. I just think it's gorgeous. On to blushes, and we had a great year for blushes this year. First up, these duos from Chanel's. Was it their spring collection? That makes sense to me, as it's the Jardin Imaginaire collection. Now, I spoke more recently about the berry duo, but the coral duo as well, absolutely stunning. I just love these products so much. You can, you know, mix the two shades together to get a glowy blush, or use them separately, and both of these duos have become absolute loves of mine. I might even say that the berry has become like my favorite of the two, because I've just been really loving it in winter, and I think it's a bit more unique and special. I do have a lot of coral peachy blushes, as you know, whereas the berry blush in the other duo, I don't have a lot of blushes like that. So I feel like it maybe stands out a bit more in my collection, but both gorgeous formulas. And we may as well continue with Chanel, because let's talk about these cream powder blushes. I'm wearing this shade is Rose Ardent on my cheeks today. This is my favorite. It's just stunning. This formula, yes, it kind of feels creamy, but very light, and it's silky. There's no stick. This is literally freshly applied heavy swatch. There's nothing sticky or creamy feeling about it. It feels silky, so smooth and delicate, so buildable, but very like beginner and blush phobe friendly. It's so inoffensive, so easy to use. It doesn't lift anything up, and because it's that cream to powder, it wears incredibly well, but you still get the luminosity of a cream. They're stunning, seamless, the prettiest finish, the only cream blush that have ever survived in my top drawer for more than a few days before I realized I don't like creams. These are an exception to the usual rule. And speaking of which, they weren't the only one. This year, Hourglass came out with their liquid blushes, and these are also unbelievable. I've gone back for more shades since I did my review of these. You know, usually liquid blushes for me are so scary and intimidating, but these are so easy to use. I get, you know, I think of like the Rare Beauty blushes when I think of like a liquid blush. These are so subtle and pretty on the skin. They've got this gorgeous glowy finish to them, so natural, and you can build them up as much as you like, but you only need like a dot of these, so they will last forever. I have so many of these. I think I've got 5 of these now. I keep going back for more, and just like the Chanel cream to powder, that's not typically how things go with me in liquid blushes. So it just goes to show that brands are really improving cream and liquid formulas these days, because those are formulas that I would just never use a few years ago because I found them so tricky to use and they always messed up my makeup underneath, whereas now these formulas are seamless, even for a cream hater. A couple of sort of cheek palettes that I absolutely love this year. First up, these Chanel, what are they called? The Healthy Glow Sunkissed powders. This is medium coral, and I think this is my favorite. It's very hard to choose between this one and the rose that I picked up as well, because they're both absolutely stunning, so natural. I love that we've got that really sort of quite bright blush, but the bronzer and the highlighter are quite natural and soft, so you really can swirl all 3 together and just use it as an all-in-one blushing bronzy powder. But you can easily separate them out as well because the stripes are big enough to get a brush into, so quite a versatile product. These gave me a lot of enjoyment this year. I think the overall effect of these on the cheek, just using one of these to do blush, bronzer and highlighter, is just so pretty. Very elegant, understated, muted, but really pretty. The medium rose gold as well, out of this world. And then of course the Hourglass holiday palette. Evil Eye was definitely my favorite this year. I mean, it's just so pretty, and this sort of almost neutral blush is literally all of my dreams and prayers come true from Hourglass. The glow on this blush is just the thing that dreams are made of, and the highlighter as well is very smooth and glossy, which I love. I love that we got so many new shades that we have never seen before from Hourglass, and the gorgeous glow of these palettes. I will never get sick of them, I'm sure. I'll never get bored of them. I love them so much. This year I feel like was their best ever year for these palettes. This one, I think it's my all-time favorite. The fact that we got 3 blushes and one blush that in my, you know, fairest winter skin almost could be like a blush topper, as well as only 1 bronzer and 1 finishing powder, is the perfect format for me personally and what I like, and the shades are just absolutely stunning. This has got to be my favorite ever of these palettes. And now I have 6 eyeshadow palettes to share with you, and if you watched my ranking eyeshadow palette video, you will know which 6 this is because it's my top 6 palettes from that video. So first up we have Viseart Ceraneuse Étendue. Such an underrated palette. I almost skipped on this altogether. I haven't bought anything from Viseart for so long. This is your perfect everyday soft glam neutral palette. So easy to use, such solid formulas. You can use them wet or dry. They've got some gorgeous shimmers in here, and the mattes are buttery soft and blend themselves. It's just so easy to use and work with, and such a lovely little Dior travel friendly and storage friendly size. I loved it. Speaking of everyday gorgeous palettes, we had Lisa Eldridge's Fawn palette this year, and what a blessing. This is your everyday muted neutrals palette with like an elevated touch of Lisa Eldridge pizzazz. So it's so pretty and easy going, and you've got such really soft muted mattes to play with, something really understated and soft and pretty, but then you've got some really kapow shimmers. You've got a duochrome and this stunning frosty icy shimmer that is absolutely gorgeous. You can really use this as dramatically and impactfully as you would like, and it's just so easy going but beautifully elegant. Next up, another big surprise for me from Bobbi Brown was their Dream Gleam palette. This just knocked my socks off. The mattes are just the perfect tones and steps for me. Something barely, you know, deeper than my skin tone, something a bit cooler, something a bit warmer, depending on how smoky I want my look to be. And then a brow arch or inner corner highlighter, and 4 absolute show stopping shimmers. These are insanely pigmented, wet, molten metal shades. So much impact. The most stunning packaging of an eyeshadow palette that I have in my entire collection, I think. A real surprise from Bobbi Brown. I did not know that Bobbi Brown were making eyeshadows like these. I really didn't. And then this year I found out, and I was impressed. You know, a very versatile palette, because you can do really as much or as little with this as you would like to, depending on which shades you use and whether you dip into those stunning metallics that are absolutely out of this world. You can sort of do something with the mattes and just keep everything a bit matte and a bit office friendly, or you can go all out New Year's Eve with that palette. So it's very versatile, which I like. We love a bit of value for money around here. Next up we have the Icy Nude palette from Huda Beauty, which I absolutely love. This was my second favorite palette of the year, and it was close. I still have days where I think this is my favorite. It's just right up my street, this. It's so pretty. It is kind of cooler tone, but so wearable. It really is like my sweet spot of being very impactful and pretty and wow factor, but in a color story that I can wear and be in my comfort zone any day of the week, all year round. This is so wearable for me, but it's like wearable in a really stunning way. I have so much fun with this palette. I think the formulas are gorgeous, and I also think that this is her best palette ever. I wish she wouldn't give up on this size. I think it works so well, and I think she's just nailing her formulas as well. So I really hope we have more larger size palettes from Huda, whether they're in a slightly different format or not, because these like shimmers are outrageously beautiful. It's such an impressive palette, and one that I can really see myself using a lot for a long time without getting bored of it. And then we had 2 new palettes from Natasha Denona in her midi size. I Need a Warm, that I'm wearing today, and the Golden palette. The Golden palette was a big surprise for me. I think I thought it was just going to be so yellow gold. You know, I thought the whole palette was going to be like this, you know, when you hear the word golden, but there's so many more neutral shadows in here that make it really wearable and pretty, and more sort of champagne shades as opposed to gold. So although I didn't really think this would be a palette I would love, there's a lot of shades in here that I really do love and think are so beautiful. And of course the packaging is stunning. And we know the formulas are in there are going to be outrageous because it's Natasha Denona and she doesn't do a dud. But every shade in there is an absolute winner. And for me, it was a lot more wearable and I liked it a lot more than I expected to, given that it was the Golden palette, and gold is not typically a colour story I expect to love. And you could kind of say the same thing about the I Need a Warm palette. I thought this was going to be so much warmer, so much more orangey and bronzy than it is. This is actually really a palette of neutrals with some even like rosier tones in here. Again, I like this so much more than I thought I would. There's some stunning shimmers in here that are right up my street, really smooth, creamy metallics, and the mattes are just the perfect balance. So versatile. It's got absolutely everything you could ever need and want for like everyday soft glam muted office friendly eyeshadow, but it also can be fully amped up to a full-on soft glam look for the evening if that's what you want. I can't stop using this. I'm so torn between this and I Need a Nude on a daily basis. I don't even know how I would ever choose between them. They're both just exactly what I look for in an eyeshadow. My boring makeup lover's heart just is spoilt for choice. Only one new mascara made my top 25 list this year, and it was the Lisa Eldridge Kitten Lash. This is just so good. It's so good for when it's raining or you're going to cry without being a waterproof mascara. I don't like waterproof mascaras. They're so hard to get off. They're so like clumpy as well. I've just never got on well with them. I don't like them. This isn't waterproof, but it is highly water resistant. I've worn this in the rain. I've worn this with tears streaming down my eyes because it's so cold and the wind is blowing, which makes my eyes weep like a newborn baby's. And I've also worn this on days when I've been highly emotional, and not a single smudge or smear or flake has been seen. I wore this and when I was watching my son play football, and my eyes were watering the entire 2 hours that he seemed to be on the pitch for. And when I looked in the mirror at the end, it was perfect still. Nothing had happened. It's an absolute life changer. If I'm ever going to an event where I think I might cry, or I'm going anywhere where I think tears may leave my eyes, or it's raining, this is the only mascara I would ever trust in those conditions. And not only is it so resistant to water, it's also a beautiful everyday mascara. It gives you enough drama without it being like over the top fake lashes. It's got a gorgeous sort of fanned out effect. Kitten Lash is exactly the right name for this mascara because it's not like a cat eye, it's a kitten lash, you know? Perfect name. And then two new lip formulas this year, both from the same brand, unsurprisingly, that just won my heart. First up, the Balm Embraces from Lisa Eldridge. I'm wearing a Penui today, and it's just the perfect, understated, prettiest, easygoing colour ever. This whole formula knocked my socks off. The finish of it is just so buttery, and they're so comfortable on the lips. They feel like you've literally just done a touch of butter or a mask on your lips. So light, so kind to your lips. Perfect amount of buildable colour. You know, you can get a fair bit of colour out of these, but they're just enough for like everyday wear that they're easygoing, they're not intimidating, they're just understated and so pretty. And the finish, there's something really special about it. It's different to any other shiny lipstick that I've ever used. It's got just that sort of oilier, butterier effect to it, where the shine is just juicier somehow than any other lipstick. Such a beautiful slim packaging as well. I need 20 more shades, Lisa, I beg you. And then the final item, another lip formula, of course, from Lisa Eldridge, is the Rouge Experience lipsticks. Not only do we have the most stunning lipstick component that I have ever seen, but with all of the innovation behind these completely recyclable refills, game-changing, world-first technology that other brands are now reaching out to Lisa and learning from her, that it's going to have a massive global impact actually on the recyclability of makeup in general, which is an amazing achievement. The fact that we have, you know, Lisa's signature on one end and you can have your own initials on the other. It's such a great concept, and the formula itself is beautiful. One of my favorites, 182. It's the perfect, again, everyday wearable neutral. Such a nice satin finish. These feel so comforting and comfortable. They have that gorgeous soft glow to the finish, not glossy but luminous satin, really gorgeous opacity right off the bat, but it's just so creamy. They really feel buttery and creamy on the lips. Very comfortable, long wearing, outrageous component. Lisa just knocked it out the park with her lip formulas this year. And there you have it. That is my top 25 for 2024. All of my ultimate favorites from this year. Please let me know some of your absolute favorite launches this year, your favorite makeup. Please let me know in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.